Man, I miss GTA Clones so bad. I talk about it all the time on the channel, but I've never really made a dedicated video about my love for this genre, subgenre. I know it's a weird term in general, the term GTA clone. And I know some people kind of look at this term as if you're diminishing the other games in the open world crime sandbox subgenre, but like that's the thing. That's such a if you wanted to call it the open world crime sandbox genre subgenre, that's a little bit more loaded. It doesn't quite roll off the tongue in the same way that GTA clone rolls off the tongue, and it's a bummer that some shit kind of gets boiled down to that kind of its simplest. Okay, well, what can we call it the quickest, and what's gonna stick? And it's the same thing, when you think about new metal or rap rock or butt rock or whatever the weird terms that just stick are, and they can kind of come with these negative connotations attached to them. And but at the same time, when I look back to mid 90s alternative rock and roll, whatever the hell you want to call it, a lot of the bands that are still relevant, a lot of the bands that, can still sell out fucking arenas and shit are new metal bands. And then you go to the 2000s, like you just saw Creed went on this big world tour getting back together, and I'm sure Nickelback can still sell out pretty fucking large venues. And you compare that to your prog metal band who's going to struggle to fill a bar. It's like, I don't know. I think I'd rather take the name butt rock, but be able to put butts in seats inside of this arena, or take the name new metal and have whatever 50 plus million records sold, like a Limp Bizkit or like a Linkin Park or I don't know if Korn quite hit those numbers, but I'm trying to think of other, even Korn, huge records. I would assume over 20 million albums sold, something like that. And so sometimes a negative connotation to the thing that you're grouped inside of, the butt rock, the new metal, the GTA clone, even though it can kind of sound negative. It's like, and new metal, actually, I always thought new metal, the name itself kind of sounded cool, but there is something inherently negative about some of those names. But at the end of the day, it's like, shit, if your product is doing well and people love it, I don't know, who really gives a fuck about the subgenre heading, the title of the subgenre the box that people put you inside of. And also, it's like, you can try to shun or shield yourself from being branded butt rock or new metal or a GTA clone or whatever. But if that's kind of the thing that the people identify your product as, your band as, your game as, whatever, it's just like, I don't know. I think trying to fight against some of shit that's naturally taking place is just, I don't know, sort of a waste of energy. So I don't really mind the term GTA clone. I get it that it's a little bit disparaging to some degree, but I don't know. It's just an easy way of talking about what we're talking about here. Games that were like Grand Theft Auto that were inspired by Grand Theft Auto when GTA 3 popped onto the scene in 2001. I would have been like 7-8 years old at the time, and it was just revolutionary. And I think obviously at 7-8 years old I wasn't truly able to comprehend how revolutionary it was, but I could still at that age be able to identify this was unlike anything else I had ever played. And I've been playing games my whole life, and this was just a leap to a whole different dimension, man. This was so impressive to have like a lived in world where I really didn't feel many restrictions, and I was able to just go around and do my own thing in this living, breathing fucking world. And even, just the idea of trying to mirror reality to that degree. That was something I never really considered. Because I don't think a lot of people even understood that was possible. You know what I mean? Until Grand Theft Auto 3 came out. And that changed the industry forever. I think that that was probably the game that changed, at least in my lifetime, probably the game that changed the industry more than. I mean, Resident Evil 4 in '05 was close, pretty much changed an entire perspective. Like, that was pretty much the molding for what third person over the shoulder shooters would be from that point on. But I still think just game design limitations were. You you can make the argument for those two games, Halo as well, but without a doubt, GTA 3 was as revolutionary as any game, as impactful, as innovative as any game of my lifetime, without a doubt. And of course, with all the critical reception and all of the accolades and awards that would come with GTA 3, the biggest and best award that would come with it is the thing sold boatloads of copies. And anytime something sells boatloads of copies, other developers are looking at the thing that sold boatloads of copies and going, huh, can we make something like that that also sells boatloads of copies? And they did. There were a lot of GTA clones, and I played, I mean, I don't want to say every Grand Theft Auto clone, but damn near every Grand Theft Auto clone that ever existed, I have played. I love that sub-genre so damn much, man, and I miss it. We just do not get games like that at all anymore. And I do think at a certain point, we hit the oversaturation point where it seemed like every big publisher was trying to take their crack at the GTA clone, the open world crime sandbox style of game. It seemed like every publisher was trying to tackle that, and it's at a certain point, it's like, yeah, okay, we you can only have so much of a good thing. If you go out and get the best damn cookie in the world for 30 days in a row, by the 29th day, you're like, shit, I'd like some ice cream. You know what I mean? I think we're seeing that right now with like the Souls-like games, the FromSoft imitators, where it, Demon Souls in '09, and then into the Dark Souls and into your Bloodborns and Sekiro's to some degree, and then obviously the big boom happened with Elden Ring. And then everybody now is trying to create their Elden Ring, or trying to create something that's in that pocket, something that can kind of fit in that space. In the meantime, while people are waiting for Elden Ring 2 or Bloodborne 2 or the next big FromSoft thing, which I guess you don't really have to wait long, as they drop a new Elden Ring 1.1, Elden Ring 1.2, and Elden Ring 1.3 all within the span of like 3 years. But people, publishers, developers are trying to get in where they fit in. It's like, oh shit, this thing sold 30 million copies. I think we can make one of those. And then you get so many ones of those, and the oversaturation begins. And you'll see something new come out, and like Phantom Blade Zero, where everybody's number one question is like, is it a Souls-like? Please tell me it's not a Souls-like. You'll see that in all the damn comment sections, to the point where the developer has to come out and be like, well, look, we promise it is not a Souls-like. This is not a Souls-like. It's an actual action game. We promise. Whereas the term Souls-like used to be a real deal selling point. And now it's almost having an opposite effect to a certain degree. And I feel like that to some degree happened as well with the GTA clone market. Not necessarily the term, but that idea of, these publishers would have to go out of their way to say, okay, well, these are the things that separate us from GTA. We're not just like GTA. We have key distinct differences where you can't just put us in the GTA clone box. We promise we're unique. We got our own unique things going on. We got so much open world destruction taking place. This is a real physics oriented experience, and you would have cool ass shit like Mercenaries that would really capitalize on that. And then Saints Row's over there like, well, we're the wacky zany side of it. Well, actually they had the pivot. Saints Row 1 and 2 started out, they definitely were over the top and silly still, but Saints Row 1, not so much. It started getting more and more silly as the series went on. But I remember 3, like, one of the big standout things is we're taking it to the next level. It's totally, it's nothing like GTA where we're ratcheting up the humor to 11. And that was like a big draw, a big selling point for Saints Row 3. And the Saints Row 3 is absolutely fucking incredible. I love Saints Row 3. But you had your nuts and bolts kind of, not saying one to one, but you had your Scarfaces where it's like, yeah, that's you could say Vice City is a lot of Scarface, but then the Scarface video game is a lot of Vice City in there. And Scarface, the PS2 game, is, for one, I just think it's incredibly underrated in general. It's so crazy that thing exists at all. Getting to play like this alternate timeline, kind of this Scarface 2, what if Tony Montana lives? And I don't know, I thought the shooting in Scarface, that PS2 game, was rock solid, man, in comparison to a lot of what we got in the open world crime sandbox market. Scarface just felt so much better to shoot, so much better to control your gun in that game. And then, I'm just kind of sitting here reminiscing at this point, but just thinking about The Godfather, thinking about those two right there in particular. And then you go into your Reservoir Dogs and your Sopranos, which were a little bit more linear. But obviously inspired, I would say, for sure. But, I think about The Godfather of still in that open world crime sandbox thing, and getting to live out some of the biggest moments from the Godfather films with your created character, and the going in and roughing up shops, and roughing up shopkeepers and the shops as well, and trying to get a bigger cut. And then really they went to the next level with the Godfather 2, which I still got to finish the Godfather 2. But they went to the next level with the Godfather 2, and it became like they had so many more systems and different recruiting options. And okay, well, this character can go and do this specific task. Oh, well, he can go and he's a technical wizard. He can go in and he can hack this and cut the lights, so you can go and sneak through the building and get to your objective quicker. And this guy's the pyromaniac. He knows how to detonate all the bombs and set up all the bombs properly. And they were just loaded with systems, maybe to a point where it's like a little bit overkill, but it was cool. They were doing different things. And that's the area where I do understand people being like, why the fuck do we got to call it a GTA clone? These games all have their own unique flavor. And we already went over that, but it is I do understand that frustration, because I think you can make an argument that there was a lot of variety in this specific genre. Sure, they were copying the mold that GTA 3 created with this open world sandbox, the open world crime sandbox thing. But it's like, I don't know, that's a fucking cool mold to copy. You know what I mean? And then just doing your own twist inside of it. It's like, man, that's the thing that's such a bummer, is it felt like this is a genre that we could still be iterating on and creating cool shit inside of. Like, I would love to see what developers, because I mean, you think about where we capped off with, like, I guess the end of the GTA clone era was really with like Sleeping Dogs and into Watch Dogs. And I mean, Sleeping Dogs is one of the greatest video games ever made, in my opinion. Taking that concept and then fusing it with Max Payne and the bullet time mechanics, and then fusing it with, old martial arts movies, and kind of combining fighting game mechanics into your melee systems, and having that Arkham Asylum influence to your combat, but really intricate, detailed, nuanced fighting systems in there where you got button combinations that you're having to memorize, and all this environmental interaction where you can pick up different weapons and you can slam people into different. It just had so much going on in that combat system. And it's like, dude, a Sleeping Dogs 2 would have been so sick. Imagine that thing running on modern systems. And then, Watch Dogs 1, obviously there was the issue where Ubisoft showed off the first trailer that looked nothing like the game, and it was a lot more light in the ass with all the hacking systems that you thought you were going to be able to hack the whole city and all that. And it was not really hacking the whole city in Watch Dogs, but the story of Watch Dogs 1 was just so gritty, so dark, and then into Watch Dogs 2, definitely wanting to lighten it up a little bit. And then going into San Francisco, sunny and 75, nice vibes, a little bit too quirky, a little bit too like techie, nerdy kind of shit. But once again, trying to distinguish itself from just another Grand Theft Auto. Like, they're trying to put their own spin on it. It's like, what if we're just full-blown hackers? And then in Watch Dogs 2, you were a full-blown fucking hacker, man. You had your drones you were flying, your little spiders that were crawling through vents, and Watch Dogs 2 was just loaded with options in terms of how you wanted to hack that world. And then obviously you get into Watch Dogs Legion, where it's like, yeah, that was just not a great game. And here we are now, where Watch Dogs Legion came out in 2020, 2021, and we're in 2025. And has there been a GTA clone or an open world crime sandbox game in that time? I mean, we'll talk about some ones that are coming out in the future, but I mean, it's crazy to think that the drop off, man, good Lord, we used to get them multiple of these every year, it seemed, for a while. And now it's like, we'll go fucking 5 years without a GTA clone at all. That's crazy to think about. I also loved the, I don't know what you call it, but like, I feel like GTA kind of had a gritty influence on games, where you remember like the narc game on the PS2, where that shit was so fucking ridiculous, where you were just like taking drugs as a cop, tripping balls walking down the street. And there was just like a lot of franchises that existed for years and years, and then after Grand Theft Auto came out, they turned into this, like, I'm not saying Grand Theft Auto is the direct and only influence, but things just started taking a grittier turn in the PS2 era. And you had like what was it, the Final Fight Streetwise, where you're just walking down the street beating the shit out of people, this totally darker, grittier spin on Final Fight. And I don't know, I think fondly, I know that a lot of these games don't hold up well at all, but I really do think fondly of these, I don't know, C tier, D tier games that were very of their time. So yeah, I mean, I know I'm just sitting here and I've been really nostalgic as of late. I want to make a full PS2, like remembering the PS2, or something, just talking about how much I miss that era. There's so much about that specific 2000 to 2005 run, 2000 to 2006 run, where it was like, that era was just different, man. Shit was just different in that era. And I know I'm blinded by nostalgia. There was a lot of flaws with that era, but I just want to talk about, even talk about some of the flaws, but a lot of shit I just loved about that era. I need to make a video about that. But let's hop out of nostalgia land for a second, and let's talk a little bit about some of the GTA clones. Some of these don't even necessarily fit in the bucket of GTA clone or open world crime sandbox game, but some games that we actually do have on the horizon to look forward to from that subgenre. If that's something you're desperate for, you're sitting there with your PS5 and your Series X, you're like, where are these damn games? There are a few on the way, so I'll shout them out real quick. Not a lot, but there's at least a couple to look forward to. The Precinct, coming from the team that gave us American Fugitive, kind of top-down GTA 1, GTA 2 inspired titles, so think more that vein than the GTA 3 clones that I think we're most familiar with at this point. But you're getting to play as a cop, So total role reversal here, where you're not playing as the criminal, you are playing as the police officer, and you're going and tracking down fugitives, and then going on police chases, high speed chases, and then I think you got a police precinct, and you're trying to manage some relationships there. The American Fugitive game had a much better story than I was expecting. So hopefully the same remains with the Precinct. We also have Mind's Eye on the way from Leslie Benzies, ex GTA producer, ex Rockstar producer. Over there worked on pretty much all of the big Grand Theft Auto games for a long time. And now he went off, started his own studio, build a Rocket Boy. And Mind's Eye was separated from that other game that they're building called Everywhere, and Mind's Eye is now going to be its own standalone product being sold separately, and I think it's dropping sometime soon, sometime this summer if I'm not mistaken. And the way they're talking about it, I don't think it's going to be a GTA clone per se. The little bit of info that's been released for it so far, they're making it seem like it's going to be much, much more linear. They're still talking about, third person shooting, and you're driving around these small set pieces and stuff, but I think it's going to be a lot more locked in, a lot more on rails, if you will, which I'm totally, totally fine with that. Like we talked about, I'm fucking starved for games that even closely resemble the GTA clones of old. So, and a part of me is kind of hyped for this, where it's like, how much can we do? Because in that trailer, you see a lot of destructibility taking place. So I'm like, how much interactivity can we really shrink this down and make it much more interactive? Really curious. And kind of staying right there with Mafia the Old Country. From the little bit of info that we have for Mafia the Old Country, they're talking about that's going to also be a bit more on rails, a bit more restrictive, and slightly more old school linear routes. I'm thinking more Mafia 1. I don't think they're going to totally remove open world elements. Like I think with Mind's Eye, I have a feeling it's not going to be open world at all. Whereas with Mafia the Old Country, I think there are still going to be open world elements to it. I think it's just going to be more Mafia 1 than Mafia 3. So I think that's kind of their big selling point, where it's like, yeah, we're going back to our roots, more Mafia 1 than Mafia 3, but they're not directly saying that because they don't want to disparage their own game, which I totally understand. But I loved Mafia 3. I've loved every single Mafia game. I really, really have. So cannot wait to see more on Mafia the Old Country. And there's been quite a few GTA clones that have come across my radar over the years, where it's like, I seen a trailer for it in 2020, 2021, and the game still hasn't released. So I'm like, okay, you're slowly falling off of my anticipated list. I don't necessarily have hopes that you're actually going to release, which is, once again, totally understandable. Independent development on a GTA clone, yeah, that's pretty fucking difficult. So I get it. But there are two that I'll shout out real quick. American Showa. So this is absolutely bad shit. It's a game coming out of China, and it's, for one, I think China is an upcoming hotbed for game development. I think you're already seeing that, obviously, with your HoYoverse games, and then Black Myth Wukong last year, and we're gonna be seeing a lot more heavy hitters come out of China. But this is the one that actually looks really, really unique to me. Could be janky as hell, busted as hell, we'll see, but the game is supposedly set in a fictionalized American setting, but the twist is that Japan somehow colonized America. So it's all this iconic American imagery, but now it's in Japanese, and there's like a Japanese twist to it, and it's super brutal, very over the top violent. But yeah, that's one I'm definitely keeping on my radar. And also shout out to Contraband. This is coming from the Just Cause and Mad Max team. The not the Hogwarts Avalanche, but the other Avalanche, the people who worked on Just Cause and Mad Max. And so their next game, I would hope, is going to be somewhere in that realm. I know it's going to be more online multiplayer. They're partnering with Microsoft for this one, so they got them a big old bag to create this thing. I hope we see more of this at the summer showcase for Xbox. And of course, anytime there's multiplayer integration into anything, you're like, okay, well, let's just hope it's not some live service slop, or let's hope it's not this, that, and the other. But hopefully, it keeps the roots of what makes your Just Causes and your Mad Maxes tick, and then you're, running some drugs, or I mean, I would assume with the name Contraband, you're gonna be moving some contraband to some degree, whether it be weaponry or who knows. But let's move some weight across the states with our multiplayer parties. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying. But yeah, man, that's unfortunately that those are all the GTA clones in development that I know of that I actually think will release. If there's anything I might be forgetting that you're a little bit more tapped in on, because I'm not gonna lie, a lot of the indie projects that I've seen over the years, the GTA clone indie projects that I've seen over the years, I've kind of, my hype has just sort of died down, as it's like, you'll see some information and then a couple years will go by and you won't get any more updates on it. You're like, oh shit. I hope this thing hasn't ran into a real developmental hurdle that they're unable to overcome. But if there's anything on y'all's radar, some indie open world GTA clones or even AA AAA, definitely let me know in the comments, man. I'm craving a comeback for this genre. I'm absolutely craving it. And my hope is that now, we're getting into that era of developers who are really inspired by the PS2 games. And how could you be inspired by the PS2 era and not have been inspired by Grand Theft Auto and all the clones that came after it, and all the developers who were influenced by GTA and made their own version of it. So hopefully we just get more in that vein, because damn, it's needed. It's needed, man. We see so many guy with sword in fantasy setting games where it's just like, fuck, can we get one game where you drive a car and then jump out of it and then steal another car and shoot somebody, and then I don't know. Those were the good days, man. I do think there's still some juice left in some of those franchises. Like, I don't think Saints Row flopped the reboot in 2021 or 2022. I don't think it flopped because there's nothing left with the Saints Row name. I think the Saints Row name still holds some degree of weight. It just wasn't a good game. You know what I mean? The reboot just wasn't a good game. Nobody connected with those characters at all. It was just bland. It felt corporate, like a corporate version of Saints Row. Like and obviously Saints Row was always created in, I guess, somewhat of a corporate environment, but it just didn't feel that way back in the day. You know what I mean? It felt like it was pushing the envelope to a degree where it was just a level of insanity that you're like, what the fuck? Riding around with pimps and hitting people with dildo bats, and just it was ludicrous. And it got to a point where it was definitely over the top ludicrous. But Watch Dogs, I don't think Watch Dogs died because there's no juice left in the Watch Dogs name. I think it died because Legion just kind of fucking sucked. And then Sleeping Dogs, for God's sake, it died because Square Enix is just a fucking abomination of a company, and nothing meets their damn expectations. And then they go and take the developers who made one of the best open world crime sandboxes of all time, and they're like, yeah, we're gonna turn this into an MMO. It's like, wonderful, fucking wonderful. Okay, that's exactly what we should do. And then United Front is gone forever. And then it's Mercenaries with EA. And they make two incredible open world and just immensely interactive games. And then EA gets into their everything has to be a multiplayer live service thing. And then, so, it's a lot of these franchises, like bringing back, we talked about Contraband earlier, but I don't, maybe Just Cause, maybe I don't know if they quite fit into the bucket of some of the games we talked about recently. Your Sleeping Dogs, Watch Dogs, Saints Row, Mercenaries, but I don't think they're Just Cause might be out of juice. If I'm being honest, Just Cause might be out of juice. So I think the correct decision probably was to pivot there. But like, people are really hyped for this upcoming Mafia game. and of course people are through the moon for Grand Theft Auto 6. So it's just really surprising to me that nobody else is attempting to play in this space really whatsoever. um so yeah, I guess this is all just a long-winded way of, for the 50th time of the video, me saying I hope more developers try games in this space. What I really hope for more than anything is fucking that they, there's rumors of that sleeping. Well, it's not rumors. The I forget the guy's name, but a Sleeping Dogs movie is in the works right now, and hopefully I'll buy fucking 10 tickets to go see that thing, just in the hopes that we can revive the Sleeping Dogs IP. And somebody, please, for the love of God, Microsoft, you're going out and buying everything. Please, for the love of God, somebody, anybody, but not anybody, but almost anybody, buy that damn Sleeping Dogs IP away from Square Enix.